Welcome back, you lovely people, to Cal and on Cars, the channel that conclusively answers the question, what if Poundland started doing automotive content? And in this week's episode, we're going to look at what everybody's looking at, the future. On this beautiful sunny day, we're all concerned with climate change and how motoring plays a small part of that. And we're all looking for a silver bullet, aren't we? We're all looking for the car that will take us through for the next 30 or 40 years. Will it be electricity? Will it be the delicate balance of PHEV that allows the ice caps to magically reform? Maybe it's hydrogen. Maybe it's a mixture of all of the above. Nobody really knows. But for me, I think the car that genuinely answers all of these questions as what should we be driving for the future is this, the 1996 Ford Fiesta. And not just this car, cars of this ilk. I'm talking 90s hatchbacks, little, small, tiny, baby-wheeled, tiny-engined 90s hatchbacks. These cars hold the answer to our motoring future. Now, I'd like to claim credit for this theory, but I can't. This epoch-changing thesis came to me whilst I was holidaying in Greece. And I flew there, by the way. So it's a very wobbly soapbox that I'm standing on. But whilst I was there, I noticed one thing. All the school-run mums and executives busily going about their days weren't there thundering around in huge SUVs. They were all in 90s and noughties, 3 and 5 door, tiny hatchbacks. And you have to think, the thing about the Greeks is, these are the wisest people in the world, the greatest nation on the earth that gave us the Olympics, modern philosophy, cartography, and usually, for a country where it's sunny 250 days of the year, they invented the umbrella. But above all of that, the Greeks gave us the kebab. So they are clearly the wisest nation on earth. And it made me want to investigate further. Now, as I watched these simply brilliant people going about their busy day, a couple of thoughts occurred to me about their philosophy of using older cars. Firstly, and we've spoken about this a lot, any car of this age, this is mid-90s, has paid its carbon debt a long time ago. So the energy that's been used to form this steel, mold those plastics, create that glass, that's been paid back a long, long time ago. That's all gone. And as you can see from the minuscule amount of your TV frame that the car's taking up, these kind of cars take up a lot less space than modern cars are today. This is about 12 feet long, whereas something like a modern Discovery is about 16. So what you're talking about here is I can fit 4 of these, either on the road or the car park space, where I can fit 3 Discoveries. So if resources and space really are trouble in the future, driving a smaller, more compact car makes an awful lot of sense. The thing is, despite those diminutive outer proportions, inside here, I've got all the room I could ever want, particularly at the front. Loads of room for 2 big 6'4" plus fat lads. And then even if I breathed in, I could squeeze 3 behind. And then there's the boot, which of course in true hatchback tradition folds down 60/40 to give you basically a tiny little van. And I don't care who you are, you'll get an IKEA shop in there, particularly if you fold the front seat forward. So it makes sense from a packaging point of view, but from an engineering point of view, even more so. Let me explain. So this particular car has a 1.3 Ford Enduro-E engine. Now, if you don't know, the Enduro-E is actually derived from the Kent engine of 1959. So there are actually references to this engine in the Bible. It's that old. So it isn't the last word in sophistication, but it is probably, I would wager, the last word in sustainability. Because if we're really on about keeping things going, this engine is proof that a good design can be kept going for years and years and years. There also isn't a mechanic on the face of the earth that couldn't put this engine back together. I could probably fix this engine. That's how simple it is. The other thing is as well, if you keep these engines running sweetly, and this one at 29,000 miles is running beautifully, flew through its MOT emissions, I can get over 50 mpg out of this vehicle, 50. So climate protesters, if you are watching this, that's not a lot of petrol. It really isn't. Also, if we are looking at which vehicles do genuinely use the world's resources, we have to look at tyres. The average SUV these days will probably be on a 20-inch tyre. It's not that big a size anymore. There's a 20-inch off my Plymouth Prowler, which for you pub nerds was the first vehicle to have a production 20-inch wheel. It was a big deal back in the 90s. Now, your nan's runabout has a 20-inch. The Fiesta runs a 13, but just to give you some idea, that tyre weighs 6 kilos. So there's 6 kilos of rubber and steel in a Fiesta tyre, where there are 15, or over 15, in a 20-inch, and there's 4 of them on a vehicle, so you're talking a lot of rubber and steel has to go into the production of an SUV or EV tyre. Everybody's driving EVs. They reckon by 2025, by the middle to end of this year, there will be 400 million SUVs. And what happens to those tyres when they're finished? Well, at the moment, there really is no great disposal of tyres. So not only does the tread itself obviously get worn off and get washed down the drain and into the water table, but we then have to dispose of larger, heavier, greater material use tyres. So obviously a little car on tiny little wheels and tyres uses less of everything, not least of all, think of the size of the brake pads needed to stop something that size versus something this size. So all of the materials used to keep this car on the road and to stop it are much smaller and using less resources. You see, the beauty of a car like this, the sustainability of a car like this, say if I get a light failure, chances are it's probably something as simple as a bulb. 30 or 40p later, I'm back on my way. If that's a full contained LED unit, I can't replace it, or if I do, it's much more expensive to replace. These kind of cars are fixable for pennies, no matter what the problem is. If the engine goes, I can replace it with another engine, or I can rebuild the one I've got. If the gearbox goes, similarly. These are all very simple mechanical devices that very basic level mechanics can put together. Every part of the car can be removed easily and cheaply and be replaced with another one that's exactly the same. And in Greece, where everyone's driving the same car, that's even easier than you think. So what about electrics and electronics then? Well, don't forget, on these wonderful fancy new cars, and particularly these EVs, these all use precious resources too. So the bigger, the fancier and more modern the vehicle, the greater the number of body control modules, ECUs, cables and screens it's got to have. Now these all require myriad precious metals and rare minerals and a whole massive refining before they can be put into the car. And then a simply terrifying amount of energy and carbon to create. The Fiesta, it has a brain that wouldn't even worry a Nokia 3310 keep fit Windows. It doesn't even have a rev counter. This is the basis of simple motoring. I don't believe there's a car out there from this area that has less wiring in it. So much less to replace, so much less to go wrong. I will acquiesce though, one thing that modern cars do better than older cars is they have climate control. But don't forget, that's all gases. It actually uses more fuel to run air conditioning. I am a little bit warm in here, I'll be honest with you, particularly because I've turned the fan down so that I don't spoil the sound. But it's a small price to pay. All those Greek people didn't have aircon in their car. You just acclimatise to the heat and maybe use your windy window to get a bit of fresh air in. What our grandparents and parents did. It was all right for them. There's another reason to drive older and smaller, and that's weight. A car like this Fiesta weighs less than 1,100 kilos, so it skates across the top of the tarmac, where a modern day SUV or EV can weigh easily over 2 tons, so double what the Fiesta weighs. Some of them are nudging 3 tons now, and that means they're crashing through any imperfections in the road. It's one of the reasons that we see more potholes these days. Some of it is down to the fact that local councils don't have the budgets to spend to fix them. Some of it is the fact that vehicles weigh a huge amount more than they used to even 20 years ago, and it's killing the roads. Again, if you really say that you care about the road surface and the materials used to repair it, you want to drive older, smaller and lighter. It's just science. Now the Fiesta isn't fast, but it will break the speed limit in any country you care to mention, unless the country is Germany and you're on the Autobahn. And just take it as someone who knows, when I used to rent cars like this, when they were new in the 90s, on holidays to Ibiza and Tenerife and Lanzarote and places like that, if you put an Avis keyring on a car like this, it immediately becomes the fastest car in the world. And for all you Evo readers who are huffing and puffing, going, I can't clip apexes, and it's not fast enough, it's not going to give me the track day thrills that I need. Do you know what? There is nothing like driving an incredibly slow car fast. There is way more fun to be had from driving a car like this with an asthmatic 1.3 at 10 tenths or 11 tenths on those tiny little tyres than there is driving a 500 bhp equivalent EV, which thrills you for the first 3 or 4 launches and then just becomes incredibly boring. This is the way. Anyone who's ever hustled a 90s hire car on holiday on a come down from several pints of lager the night before will know the thrills that await. So what are the downsides then? Well, the obvious one is you're not going to impress people as much driving around in a 30-year-old car that didn't cost an awful lot to start with, and in the case of this particular one, was 650 quid. But then again, who are you trying to impress? The kind of people I want to impress would be absolutely amazed that I rocked up in a pristine Fiesta from 1996. So just pick your friends, that's what I'd say. There's not even any downside to how the thing drives. I'm cruising along here, doing the speed limit, of course. Gear change is a delight. Steering, which is non-power steering, one less thing to go wrong, is absolutely wonderfully weighted. And should I get to a country lane in a minute, the car's going to do fantastic things. This age of Fiesta, and pick a contemporary car, Clio, Peugeot 205, whatever it is, they were all fantastic handling machines, even at low speed and even with rubbish engines. So there really is no downside. You could argue that obviously bigger cars tend to be safer cars, and should I get hit by a 3-ton SUV, that'll be the end of me in this, even though it does have an airbag. It wouldn't take long to fold up around me, but you know. I've managed to drive all this time and not get hit by anything. A lot of accidents can be avoided by what you do as the other party. There are disadvantages then to driving older cars, but not many. If you're looking at how much they cost less to buy, they cost less to run. This one's not really using any petrol at all. You'd fill it up on a weekly basis. Insurance can be quite cheap. Replacement parts can be absolute pennies. In terms of where you take it when things go wrong, as I've said before, the world and his dog can fix this car. It is the most basic of appliances. It really is. There are toasters that have more technology in than this thing. And let's face it, the reality of modern motoring is exactly what's happening to me now, is that you're stuck in traffic behind other cars. I, of course, am smugly taking up less space on the road than my fellow motorists because I'm only about 12 foot long. You could argue while you're sitting there pumping out emissions into the atmosphere, if you were using this as your classic car, or even if you were doing a limited mileage, why not take something like Coriton fuel, which of course isn't carbon-based fuel, and Rose Sunspeed oil? Both of those don't actually have any carbon content in them. Then all that's being emitted from your tailpipe as you sit here in traffic, slightly cooking, is hope streams and fairy dust. Now you will of course seen the absolute flaw in my plan. We can't be like Greece. We don't get 250 days of sunshine, and it does mean, unfortunately, that cars like this lovely little maintained Fiesta with its rust-free bodywork are very few and far between. But what if going forward we just took a different philosophy, rather than trying to get caught up in an arms race of ever bigger SUVs, EVs, seven-seaters, and wrapping ourselves with 3 tons of steel? What if we all bought smaller, more sustainable, rust-proofed our cars better, like we used to do in the old days, and kept them for longer? We bought simpler vehicles that could be repaired and replaced and kept on the road for less money, and stopped buying things that have a built-in obsolescence. That's truly sustainable. Driving around with 3 tons of battery doesn't make you a planet saver, my friend. It really doesn't. Now, as we head towards an uncertain motoring future, I think we need to be more Greek and ask the question, what would Aristotle do? Well, I think the learned gentleman would be scouring the small lads for a small 90s hatchback, wax-oiling it within an inch of its life, and enjoying it for at least the next 10 years to come. Even if you tire of the environmental benefits, you'll never tire of the tyre bills or lack thereof. And of course, at least you'll always find a parking space. So for those reasons and many more, get yourself a small 90s hatchback.
And that's it for this week, you lovely lot. Please do like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, and you'll be the first to know what happens next week, which will undoubtedly be more old car stuff, a bit like this. See you then.